Hello everyone, and I am back from my unplanned hiatus. Oh boy, technology is great. Until it stops working for you. Anyway, enough about me. Today's challenge is to hardcore Nuzlocke Pokemon Red only using poison type Pokemon. For those of you that don't know the rules, I'll say it quickly. You can only catch the first poison Pokemon you come across in any given area. If a Pokemon faints, it is considered dead and cannot be used for the remainder of the game. Got it. We cannot use any items in battle, and my team cannot be at a higher level than the upcoming gym leader's ace. That should tell you all you need to know, but if you want even more detailed rundown, I'll have a more detailed rundown in the description below, along with links to my social media and my Patreon if you wish to buy me a cup of coffee. Or hell, a new computer. I don't like this one anymore. There's actually some decent poison type Pokemon in this generation, but out of the options available to me, I'd say only 3, maybe 4 of them are any good, with the rest being barely usable to terrible. Oh, and these 2 aren't available in Pokemon Red. So let's not waste any more time and get to the content you came here to see. After you hit my 2 favorite buttons, the like and subscribe. It's free. And also because YouTube likes engagement, which means I have to as well. I completely ignore my mom, like any 10-year-old would, as I head outside and march towards the tall grass. Professor Oak stops me before something jumps out and takes me to his lab. He says I can grab any of the 3 Pokemon on the table. Since I'm stuck with poison types, I choose Bulbasaur. After I finish nicknaming it, I called it Carbon, Professor Oak lets his grandson pick one as well. Then he immediately challenges me to a battle. Bulbasaur is the worst starter to pick. For this practice battle, in the main game, it doesn't matter if you win or lose, but since this is a Nuzlocke, it kinda does. The only attacking move we have right now is Tackle, and then we have Growl to lower its attack stat. What's even worse, Tackle isn't even a 100% accuracy move like Scratch is. That's without taking into account the 1 in 256 glitch. Not only that, since Charmander is usually faster, more often than not, it gets to move first. The strategy that works best for me is to use Growl on my first turn, and then spam Tackle, hope it doesn't miss, and I get a crit or 2. All the while hoping Charmander doesn't attack me too much. Resetting to this point only takes a minute or 2, so it's not the worst thing in the world, but this does take me a couple of attempts. Although, I do hear some people don't consider the Nuzlocke to officially begin until you have Pokeballs. So I'll end this with a question. Does it matter if I win or lose this battle? Is this a dead run? Or do you continue even in defeat? Let me know your thoughts down below. After giving the parcel to Oak and grabbing the Pokédex, I head to Viridian, buy some Pokeballs, officially beginning the Nuzlocke. I head off to Route 22 where I catch Sulphur the Nidoran male, and then to Viridian Forest where I get Chloride the Weedle. Once out of the forest, after an intense grinding session, I head to the Pewter City Gym and challenge Brock. And I mean, come on. I have a Bulbasaur. If I lost to Brock with a Bulbasaur in my party, I might as well give up my trainer card and work the graveyard shift at a 7-Eleven. Vinewit one-shots Brock's Geodude and Onix and hands me the Boulder badge for my troubles. He also gives me the TM for Bide and tells me to make good use of it, which I did, by selling it at the Pokemart. After defeating all the trainers on Route 4, I enter Mount Moon and run into, what else? A Zubat. Probably the only time I'll ever be happy to run into one. I call it Methyl. While I was battling some of the trainers in Rocket Grunts, Bulbasaur and Nidoran evolves. And once I'm out of Mount Moon, I find an Ekans in the tall grass. I call my new friend Cyanide. I'm not feeling up for battling Misty quite yet, so I head up to the route above to do some more training. That is, once I battle my rival again. I leave with Ivysaur, who I get to plant its seeds into Pidgeotto. It doesn't know any moves that are super effective against us, yet, so I wasn't worried. I then switch to Nidorino, who I get to spam Horn Attack. It takes longer than it should have, thanks to Pidgeotto, who keeps throwing sand in my eyes. But thanks in part to Leech Seed's zapping its strength, Pidgeotto eventually falls. Abra wasn't a problem. The only move it knows is Teleport, and that's the voice inside your head will tell you, you can't run from a trainer battle. So it just sits there and waits to die. Which we happily oblige. When Rattata comes out, I switch in Beedrill so Nidorino can get its accuracy back, as Beedrill almost falls to a crit Hyper Fang. Good start, Beedrill. We're gonna bench you for Ekans. I get a Poison Sting off, but no poison sadly, as a couple of quick attacks gets Ekans down to half. Knowing a crit or a Hyper Fang would most likely result in death, I again switch into Ivysaur. I get to Leech Seed Rattata as it answers back with Tackle, which doesn't do too much. Vine Whip almost takes it out as it goes for Tail Whip. Okay. Leech Seed zaps the last of its strength. Just Charmander left. It hits us with Ember, which also results in a burn. We see Charmander and switch out for Zubat, who confuses it with Supersonic. Things start off well as we get recovery from Leech Seed and Charmander hits itself. But our luck runs out once he gets past the confusion and burns us with Ember. But at this point, Charmander is just barely hanging on. Even with our attack cut, one more bite takes it out. After knocking on death's door, I figured this would be a good time to get another partner. I find an Oddish on Route 24, calling it Chlordicone. And now, I have a full team of 6. Before Batch 2. It's been a while since I had that. After getting the SSN ticket from Bill, I head back to Cerulean and challenge Misty. Thanks to the tag team of Gloom, who evolved while training on Route 25, and Ivysaur, we are easily able to sweep Misty. The only thing of annoyance in this battle was that Poison Powder missed twice in a row. But other than that small hiccup, we get our second badge without any casualties. Right after the battle, I give a Moonstone to Nidorino, evolving it into Nidoking. I make a beeline for the SSN, where I come across my rival again, who is bragging about catching 40 different kinds of Pokémon. Maybe instead he should focus on training the ones he already has, because Nidoking is easily able to take out his Pidgeotto, Raticate, and Kadabra with Body Slam, and Charmeleon goes down to a Bubble Beam. Once I got on the Cut HM after rubbing the captain's back, and looking into the garbage, I get through Surge's BS of a gym puzzle and challenge him. Again, this battle is a clean sweep thanks to Nidoking. No surprises here. In my optimal playthrough of Pokemon Red, Ivysaur and Nidoking are easily able to handle first third of the game on their own. Still boggles my mind Nidoking can't learn Dig in this generation. While I was in Dark Tunnel, I fought this Graveler's Hiker. What? I fought this Hiker's Graveler, who lived in Azor from Gloom and then blows up in our face, killing Gloom. You're seeing the tail end of this because I wasn't recording at the time. Because I thought there was no way I was going to lose to a random trainer. Egg on my face. Thankfully, I make it out of Dark Tunnel without any more casualties. I rush past Lavender Town, make my way to Celadon, and challenge Erica. Arbok leads for me this time, who digs underground. When it comes back up, it deals about half to Victory Bell, who then traps us with Wrap. In Generation 1, if Wrap hits, you can't attack for 2 to 5 turns, but you can switch out. However, I do not switch, as I'm freed after 3 turns. Arbok digs again, and Victory Bell just hangs in there. Wrap traps us for a couple more turns, and once we're free, I finish it off with Bite. Out next is Tangela. This time I use Poison Sting, which looks to be a 4-hit KO. Thankfully, Tangela doesn't know anything that can deal a lot of damage. My calculations, however, were a little off, as Tangela just lives the 4th Poison Sting, giving Erica the chance to heal. A few more Poison Stings later, Tangela finally goes down. Erica's down to our last Pokemon, which is Vileplume. Arbok deals less damage than I thought it would, as our HP is starting to get worryingly low after a Petal Dance. So I switch in Golbat, which Vileplume has nothing to counter it. And after a few attacks of Leech Life, I attain my 4th badge. Afterwards, I storm into the game corner's basement and encounter Giovanni. Bubble Beam easily one-shots Onix and Rhyhorn, where Body Slams a 3-hit KO to Kangaskhan. I was super lucky none of his moves crit us, or I would have lost Nidoking. Once I gave him this thirsty girl every drink that I have in exchange for some TMs, I head back to Lavender Town and come across my rival in Pokemon Tower. My team currently is at a much higher level than that of my rivals. Nidoking is easily able to sweep his team, with the only damage it took was a quick attack from Pidgeotto. While I was in Pokemon Tower, I come across a Ghastly who I caught and named Mustard. It won't be able to evolve into a Gengar, but Haunter is no slouch either. I kicked Team Rocket out of Pokemon Tower and saved Mr. Fuji. But my rocket troubles aren't done yet. I head to Saffron, enter Silphco, and beat up some more rocket grunts. I'm going to save the rival and Giovanni battle for a little later on. Right now, I need to get my level up a bit. I also grab any items I feel may be useful. On Route 12, I found and caught a Venonat. In the Safari Zone, while I was busy looking for the secret house, I found an arena, which will come in handy if something happens to Nidoking. Once I got on the HM for Surf, I head for the Fuchsia Gym and challenged Koga. I figured he'd be fairly easy. Nidoking's a ground poison type, and thanks to the TM for Earthquake I found at Silphco, I was able to sweep his entire team and win Badge 5, even with Muck using Minimize to cause a few misses there. As for why I fought Koga first, I wanted to surf in the route under Fuchsia to get my next encounter, which is a Tentacool I named Chlorine, that I misspelled. Whoops. Say hello to Chorine. I welcome him to my team and box Beedrill, but it's at level 10, so we got some more training to do. After getting my now Tentacruel up to par, I head back to Saffron and challenge my rival. Tentacruel one-shots his Pidgeot and Execute with Ice Beam. Having nothing for Gyarados, I switched to Nidoking because I got confused and thought it knew Thunderbolt. It doesn't, that would be Haunter. And instead, it nearly gets killed via Hydro Pump. I switch to Venusaur, who eventually takes out Gyarados thanks to the combination of Leech Seed and Razor Leaf. But we lost half our health in the process, which isn't great because out next is Alakazam. I decided to take a risk and seed it. We get hit with Confusion, which thankfully we live. But we won't be able to take another one. So I switch out to Golbat, who gets nailed with a crit Confusion. And even worse, confuses it. Knowing now my Pokemon won't be able to take more than 2 attacks, I keep Golbat in and hope I can gain some health back from Leech Life. Instead, we hit ourselves in Confusion, and Alakazam finishes off Golbat with Psybeam. I send out Arbok, who is slower and just lives a Psybeam. We go for Strength, and Alakazam barely hangs on. Time to take another risk. I switch out Arbok for Haunter, who gets hit with Confusion, which it takes pretty well. Now I just gotta hope we're faster. Which we are. Haunter finishes off Alakazam with Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt also one-shots Charizard, winning us the bout. After burying my dad and welcoming Ozone to the team, I head to the top floor of Silphco and fight Giovanni. This battle was a lot easier than the bout with my rival. Venusaur sweeps his team after many of Razor Leaf, despite the fact that Razor Leaf misses his Nidoking twice in a row. Since my rival's Alakazam was so scary, I was a little nervous heading to the battle against Sabrina. So imagine my shocked Pikachu face when Nidoking somehow manages to sweep Sabrina's entire team, with the only damage it took was from a single Psywave. My fears were for naught as I get Badge 6. Now it's time for my last encounter. 2 possible Pokemon who can only be found at Pokemon Mansion. The Grimer line or the Coughing line. I end up getting a Coughing, I named Poison, and boxed it. With all my encounters out of the way, it's time for the battle against Blaine. Not that there's much to talk about. Tentacruel drowns his entire team with Surf. And you can copy and paste everything he said about Blaine's team and apply it to Giovanni as well. Feeling pretty confident in my squid friend, I rush towards the Indigo Plateau and face my rival. I may have flown a little too close to the sun. I take out his Pidgeot, Rhyhorn, and Execute with no problems. Gyarados does get some damage in, but thanks to the barrier setup, it wasn't too bad. Alakazam comes out, and after setting up a Reflect, it nearly takes Tentacruel out with Psywave. I only managed to live this encounter because instead of finishing me off when it had the chance, my rival heals Alakazam, which lets me finish it off. If it had attacked me one more time, I would have been a goner. Thankfully, Charizard goes down to a single Surf. Not wanting to take any more chances, I ready myself for one more grinding session, and then head up to the Indigo Plateau to face my final challenge. First up is Lorelei. I get Venusaur to step up growth and start attacking with Giga Drain. We do get hit by a Dewgong Aurora Beam, causing an attack drop, but that's not a big deal since we're attacking on the special side, and it didn't hit us too hard. Plus with Giga Drain, we do regain most of our health back. A couple of turns later, Dewgong falls. Venusaur then one-shots Lorelei's Cloyster and Slowbro. Jinx lives his attack and counters with Ice Punch. We take it pretty well, but we get frozen today. And in Generation 1, the only way to thaw out without items is to get hit by a fire move. With little other choice other than to just let it die, I switch in Venomoth, who finishes off Jinx with Leech Life. For Lapras, I switch in Haunter, and after hitting itself in Confusion thanks to Confuse Ray, wins us the battle after a couple of Thunderbolts. Up next is the man no one wants to talk about, Bruno. Thankfully, there's not much to say. Haunter sweeps his whole team with Psychic. That brings us to Agatha. Arbok one-shots her first Gengar with Dig. When Golbat comes out, I switch in Haunter, who takes out Golbat with a pair of Thunderbolts. And then sweeps the rest of her team with Psychic. Haunter's really been the MVP of the Elite so far. That just brings us to the last member, Lance. Haunter one-shots his Gyarados with Thunderbolt, and then after confusing Lance's Dragonair, I switch in Tentacruel, who takes out both of Lance's Dragonairs with Ice Beam, Aerodactyl with Surf, and Dragonite with another Ice Beam. With the Elite Four easily disposed of, it's time for our last encounter against the current champion, our rival. Haunter one-shots Pidgeot, then it confuses Alakazam, who hits itself twice in a row, giving us a chance to take it out with Thunderbolt. I switch in Tentacruel as Rhydon enters. Surf easily takes out Rhydon, and Ice Beam one-shots Exeggutor. I switch in Haunter when Gyarados answers the battle, but I misclicked and used Lick when I meant to use Thunderbolt. As a result, we get hit with 2 Hydro Pumps, which Haunter somehow just manages to live. We get off the Thunderbolt and take out Gyarados, leaving just Charizard left to battle. I go for another Thunderbolt, which Charizard just manages to take and hits us with Fire Spin, which we live somehow. I was ready to sack Haunter, but seeing this as fate, I switch in Tentacruel, who finishes off Charizard with Surf, winning us the battle and crowning us the new champion. Which of course means I just beat a Pokemon Red Hardcore Nuzlocke only using Poison-type Pokemon. And on my first try, kinda. Yeah, this ended up being a lot easier than I thought it would. It helps that there's no shortage of Poison-type Pokemon, and most of them are dual types, which helps cover up some of their weaknesses. I was mostly surprised by Tentacruel and Haunter. They really carried the team for the latter portion of the run. I thought maybe Power Creep would catch up and Haunter would begin to struggle against the Elite, but no. Good work, buddy. It's been a while since I beat a Nuzlocke my first attempt. Kinda. Anyway, that's enough out of me. It's time to put the Game Boy down. My name is Jeffrey Yuri, and I will see you all very soon. I promise you this is true this time. Bye.